Now I recognize this gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Kiggans, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding the hearing to discuss the implications of the National Environmental Protection Act. I believe NEPA was enacted with good intentions to ensure development does not come at the cost of our environment. However, over time, it has turned into a long, complicated process that unnecessarily extends projects, drives up costs, and leads to uncertainty for businesses. Whether it's building roads and bridges, maintaining our forests, expanding and improving our military infrastructure, or developing energy projects, these delays often hurt communities that need these projects the most. As you know, my district and the surrounding areas are home to the Navy's East Coast Master Jet Base, Naval Air Station Oceana, the largest naval base in the world in Norfolk, and tens of thousands of service members across Hampton Roads. Not only do NEPA delays impact private sector projects, but projects for the military must also undergo strict permitting and siting processes. The cost of delays for defense projects is not just financially, but directly impacts our national security and readiness. We've been trying for a very long time to home the F-35s on the East Coast. Right now, they're currently just on the West Coast, but the process of getting this next generation strike fighter to Naval Air Station Oceana really comes down to permitting and this environmental impact study. And it's become a source of great frustration for me personally, knowing that money follows the new toys, knowing that we need the infrastructure investment on the East Coast. I want to get those F-35s. I want to get the FAX, the next generation strike fighter, to the East Coast Master Jet Base, which I'm sure I don't need to explain why the East Coast is important to our national security. So, Mr. Hergott, thank you for discussing the real cost of procedural drift and delays. Could you elaborate on how NEPA can impact military readiness and how we can improve and expedite the process so we can move forward and get some of this environmental permitting just done quicker?
Thank you for the question. Much like the $14 billion of wind and solar and non-fossil fuel projects that were initiated within the last 5 years that are held in limbo because of changes at BLM on soft triggers on the sage grouse, which creates a new subjective standard of what is priority habitat and what is OHMA, meaning like the species are in the occupied habitat, and what is outside the habitat. In the case of Fallon Air Force Base, and I'm happy to provide, if the chairman would allow, I have a list of 50 examples from each sector: data centers, hydro, wind, solar, because the facts are going to sell this thing. It is not about hyperbole and just saying, I'm not sure why we need to erode NEPA, when the facts on the ground show that the projects that affect everyone and everyone's constituents and power, and we can have a battle about NEPA and stripping it back. But when it comes to Fallon Air Force Base, in particular, where Top Gun, it was 3 years and $12 million and 3 different biological opinions on a species that is 12 miles away. And it's not even their priority habitat. It's habitat that once was OHMA, which you mitigate for, and still they had to do sound and vibration tests that were exhaustive in nature. And there's Camp Lejeune, and I have all these different examples where you're doing reviews on, and the DoD guys get it the worst, especially the formerly used defense sites. They're willing to do the study. They hire AECOM, they hire Tetra Tech. That's the misnomer about all of this. The federal folks inside the agencies are not writing the EISs. Let me be clear. It is high-paid, high-equipped, third-party contractors that are hired on the front end, write their environmental reviews. It is incumbent on them. That is why the overbuild is happening, because they get fired, and the person who in the company that's the program officer, including a base commander in the Army, is not going to allow this project to get set down. So they overbuild the application. They put everything they possibly can in it. And typically the fights are either about private property rights, or they're about some other issue, and you go to the code and you pick up the environmental inventory of all the laws, which I have right here, 85 of them on DoD. NEPA's only 2 of them. All these others feed up into NEPA, and they're on that list. You can figure out a subjective statute on all of them. And on those wildlife statutes under ESA, it is a may affect, or a will affect, or likely to affect, or not. Those kinds of decisions are subjective decisions that are being made in the field. And right now, those you are not incentivized as a federal employee, as hardworking as you are, for speeding a project up. You just don't get that. You don't get a 5, but you will get your hand slapped if you do something wrong.
We need to find a way to incentivize and expedite that process, because it's starting to impact national security. And my East Coast Master Jet Base, my East Coast carrier air wings cannot do the mission that they are sent on aircraft carriers to project air superiority throughout the world without the latest and greatest next generation strike fighter. I cannot get them in place. And oh, by the way, this master jet base has been home to a wide variety of aircraft since the end of World War II. So we are not immune to noise issues, all the other environmental impact issues that we can study, that we've gotten through those hoops before. We need
would
to
very
get
much
this
look
done
forward to
because
work-
they've told me 4 years is what it's going to take to be able to get F-35s. And then, oh, by the way, I've got FAXX on the horizon after that. I need those on the East Coast. The West Coast has been prioritized. They are at Naval Air Station Lemoore. I got the East Coast and the West Coast. But I do not need to explain the importance of East Coast military in our fight to maintain peace, especially in places like the Middle East. So thank you for explaining that process, because it is starting to impact national security and is a concern for me. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
The gentleman